Devon, welcome to Speaker Spotlight.
Hi.
It's fantastic to have you on board. You've got a very special role at the Dyslexia Show 2024. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing there and what people can expect from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, Dyslexia Show launched their workplace day. So I think it's just really important now that the workplace is starting to learn about how not just that they can look after their dyslexic employees, but how dyslexic minds work and how that's a real asset and benefit to the team. And not just dyslexic minds, but neurodivergent minds as a whole. So yeah, we are doing that take two this year. We've had loads of input from some fantastic speakers. I'm going to be hosting there during the day. So if you come along to workplace, you'll see me around lots. I'm also going to sit on a couple of panels that day. So the employee resource group panel, which I think is just such a hot topic at the moment about how we use employee resource groups and how they benefit the company and the people within them. And I'm also going to be on the lived experience panel. Lots of us, including myself, are now using that lived experience to educate and add value to workplaces all over the country. So yeah, really excited.
And it's so invaluable that all companies and people, if you're currently working somewhere, to really benefit from this. But it
Mhm.
takes real courage sharing your lived experience, and you shouldn't dim that down at all, because even if you're quite open about that every day, it still takes a lot sharing that and hearing people who potentially might be going through a difficult time at work, or it's that relatability that's there and showing that you're not the only person who's experienced that in work.
Yeah, absolutely. That experience is so valuable for workplaces themselves when they're looking at how to best treat neurodivergent people within their workforce. But I think you're absolutely right. I think the big win for going forward from a lived experience angle is that you um it makes great strides towards creating that psychological safety for neurodivergent people who are going through that right now, who may be in the throes of purposeful or non-purposeful discrimination at work. Um, there are just so many people that take all of that burden on themselves, uh,
Possibly.
particularly when we look at kind of the outdated medical model of disability, where it's about deficit, it's about what's wrong with you disorder, when actually just difference, right? And difference is great. Difference adds so much value. So it can be really life-changing for those individuals that are still in that position, maybe where they're still self-blaming or where they've not kind of had a lot of time to get to grips with their diagnosis or something yet, that they hear from the lived experience of people who are maybe on the other side of that realization of, oh, hang on, there's nothing wrong with me, that I don't need fixing, right?
Absolutely. And as well, it's we talked a lot about on Speaker Spotlight and at the show as well. It's also the mental health implications as well that can come with if you don't talk about what you're going
Mm.
through. You haven't got that safe space to express how you're feeling. It's consequently that knock-on effect through there. But it's so important. And I think from the talks that you'll be hosting, people will be able to find like, well, this is what's going on for me. What do I do? Who can I talk to? Where can I go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. It gives that signposting piece. It shows that there is a way through, right? And that it isn't always like this, because quite often neurodivergent people have just been all the way through school, all the way through university, all the way through their careers. If they were lucky enough to kind of be able to attend school in order to go to university in order to get those jobs, because let's not forget, like, we've got more than 50% of people with autism that are unemployed. So there's lots of people that are making it yet. So I think it's that causes trauma whether you're neurodivergent or not, right? That affects your mental health.
Of course it does.
And finding that place of belonging, somewhere like the Dyslexia Show, where there are so many individuals that have that shared experience, that can put their arms around each other and say, there's nothing bad about you. You don't need fixing. This is difficult things that have happened to you, and there is a way through. From people that understand, from people that aren't going to pathologize them, from people that are like tribe, right? And you can kind of have that. Um, Understanding of what belonging is as a neurodivergent person when you have events like Dyslexia Show.
You really do. And every speaker spotlight who I've interviewed, and I've interviewed a lot of people in the build up towards the show, have all said the exact same thing. It's that sense of community that's there. And people leave that, and it's quite an emotional experience, in a good way, quite an emotional experience, because you realise it's not just you. And that's really, really comforting. And yeah, I'm really excited for this. Is the first year I've done it, so I'm just so excited to be there and meet people. And as well, I want to touch on at the start of the interview, you mentioned about support for dyslexic, of course, dyslexic people in the workplace and neurodivergent people, but it's also important for neurotypical people to have that awareness as well of the dyslexic
Absolutely.
colleagues, the neurodivergent colleagues, and how you can best support them and have that awareness.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people that don't have that awareness around neurodiversity yet, or neurodivergence, that are kind of leading teams or looking after company culture, looking after EDI, it is just absolutely crucial that they come to understand what's going on for those people that have been through that story. I mean, even some people that have, right? Even some of us with diagnoses or undiagnosed neurodivergence going on, we've just kind of been pushing through the neurotypical norms, right? Those expectations, to the point where we're not really sure which way is up anymore. You don't know what your where you end and where these other expectations live. We've been masking for so long. So I think it's really important for those people to, especially those that have responsibility for looking after a team or a whole company of people. It's really important they have that understanding, because it's not very often that somebody going through massive struggles at work in order to feel like they belong, in order to feel like they can add value there, it's not often that they've got all the answers. They're looking to you as their manager, as their CEO, as their HR, as their any of those kind of departments who are, well, everybody, they're looking everywhere at work for that support and guidance, because this might not be a situation that they've come across before. It might be that they've had experience after experience of it not going very well for them. So I think it's really important to have that understanding on the other side. You might actually end up, even if you're not someone that identifies as neurodivergent, you might end up being the person that creates that safe space in order for one of your neurodivergent team members to find that in themselves and find out what environments suit their brains the best.
I love that.
It's so important. Yeah.
And again, I love that idea of you can be that positive change. Like, don't just wait around for, oh, it's never been done before, or
Yeah.
this is how we're used to doing things. Don't be afraid of making that change and those adaptations. It's just been absolutely amazing speaking to you, Devon. In the meantime, from now on the show, if somebody's experiencing these problems in the workplace, what advice would you give in the meantime from now on the show? Because you're going to be have so much information at the actual show in the workspace centre, but what advice would you give in the meantime?
My advice to anyone who is struggling in the workplace is probably to take some time, take a step back and take some time with somebody that you trust and that you love, to really map out whether that's a pros and a cons list, maybe that's a big conversation with a cup of tea, whatever that is, because our realities can get so distorted in our own heads, right? When you're there every day, and especially when there's somebody that maybe isn't in the know, maybe hasn't done the learning as we've just talked about that's needed, is dictating to you what's going on for you. Take that time out. Take it for yourself, or with a loved one, somebody that makes you feel safe, to really figure out how you feel about it and where you're at, before you make any big decisions at work. Yeah.
I love that advice. Thank you so much, Devon, for doing Speaker Spotlight. In the meantime, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Maybe check.
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn or at www.self-agency.org. Self Agency is my neurodiversity consultancy. We're based in Bristol, or you can find me, Devon Lowndes, on LinkedIn.